Okay, what are we talking about?
I don't know, but we maybe should touch on this fact that I saw in the news the other day that four death row inmates in Utah filed charges against the state of Utah for capital punishment being cruel and unusual. And I think that that's a bunch of crap because if you're on death row, you obviously probably committed a murder or something heinous. And so, uh, firing squad or the chemical that they use to put you to death, that's cruel and unusual. How about what these yahoos did to their victims? I think that it's BS and it should be thrown out. And if I was the judge, I know there's certain laws that you have to follow in the books, but I would throw it out because these convicts that were convicted of murdering uh, probably treated their victims with cruel and unusual punishment.
Do we know what they did at all, or just assume?
Well, I know that
I'm trying to look them.
they
I'm
were
trying to look it up.
all of them committed murder, but there was kidnapping and murder, and probably a with a sexual enhancement. So he sexually violated the person that he kidnapped and murdered. Another one was a home invasion, I think, and another one was a torture and murder.
Okay.
So if that's the case, I say we hire a mercenary that because people, that's what makes the world go round, people with questionable human ethics, and then kill them the same way that they killed their victims. That's just a thought off mine.
Well, I don't know.
Now
I
that
don't know if I would do
that
that
would be
because
cruel and unusual.
yeah, and it would be supporting somebody who has that same character trait that they did and who's killing somebody. So I don't know if I would do that. But
Well, you
but
know what,
lethal
if you're
lethal injections. So there's
well, you,
drugs that in states where you can end your own life uh
yeah, like in
because you have
Oregon.
like you have a medical condition that's terminal, and so you go
Yeah,
in for like in California. I know somebody who went in. You had to see like their doctor, they had to see like a psychiatrist, they had to come to the understanding that this was terminal, and at some point it would be like you were going to die
debilitating.
anyway, so you could take control of how you were going to die, and then they give you a set of medicine that simply you take the medicine or the drugs, you take them, and then you go to sleep, and then you just never wake up. And I know somebody who did that. I don't understand why, if we're doing like lethal injections and whatever, meaning you're using drugs to end the life of the inmate, if they're going to do that, why don't they just use the drugs that they're giving to people in the states that are allowing people to end their own life, to use those same drugs? Because obviously those drugs must not be cruel and unusual if somebody's willing to take them, fall asleep, and not wake up.
Well, it's not. It's just the fact that these idiots don't want to die. Some people, they just don't want to die for anything.
Well, yeah,
Uh,
most people don't.
but lethal injection and euthanizing somebody is the most humane way to do it. If we're calling that being humane, they do that to animals. And so, and they call that a humane way. So it should be a humane way. Um, yeah, you know what? The worst punishment is probably a firing squad is not I don't think that's bad either. It's just the stress that you're going through when you're sitting there with the hood over your head, waiting for a bullet to pierce your heart. That might be a little bit cruel and unusual, But the best way to do it is just to go to sleep and not wake up, man. That's the dream. If you're going to die, just go to sleep and not wake up. So, but I think that the lawsuit in general, they're questioning the chemicals that they're using, that the state uses. And right now, the state doesn't have, it says in the news that the state doesn't have any chemicals. So the next guy that's going to be, put to death is going to face a firing squad because that's all
Okay.
they have. But they say that, in fact, Gary Gilmore, we all remember him back in the when we were kids. Uh,
No, was he the hi-fi shop guy?
no, the hi-fi shop guys were Andrews and Pierre, and I think they're still alive, or one of
Oh,
them might have died, but just by old age. And
but anyway, Gary Gilmore, what'd he do?
he killed somebody. I don't remember the story. I mean, it just popped into my head just now. But he faced a firing squad and there was no problem. Boom, and it was done, I think. Uh, but I can't remember exactly the story. There was a movie about it. Um,
So anyway, you're just, so what's the problem again? I forgot.
the problem is they want the judge to throw it out, capital punishment, and the judge has got to think about it. That's the problem. There shouldn't even be any thought process about it. It should be thrown out of court, and that lawyer should be slapped on the wrist for even bringing something like that to light for four people that murdered their victims, probably with cruel and unusual treatment. Uh, you could probably bring it up, each one of those guys that did something, you could probably bring it up on the internet exactly what they did in the case.
Yeah.
And the appeals process, it just takes too long because all these guys are kept alive for decades before they finally so they get another, they kill their victim when their victim's dead and gone, and then they get another 30 years to go through their
Well,
appeals
40,
process.
40 or more, maybe, because I'm just looking it up and it says the one who has an imminent um
They
execution has he did his murder in 1986. So
okay,
that's 96 616, that's almost 40 years ago.
okay, so still, you know what, so he's got another 40 years of life, and
Yeah, so so
he
why
should
do we
be,
even worry about having a death penalty if they're going to live that long? Because I mean,
I
he's an old bugger. He's not going to get out.
well, the thing
Does who gets any benefit out of him getting executed 40 years after he killed his victims?
well, we get the tax benefit because our taxes aren't used to keep him alive for another 40 years while he degenerates and goes through medical, and he's getting fed and he's getting his medical bills paid and everything else as he degenerates and then finally goes to sleep and dies. We should just put him to sleep right now, or just turn him loose in the regular prison. What do they call it, the regular, just turn him loose in the regular prison and let those guys deal with him.
Well, I mean, probably they wouldn't. He's an old guy. Who cares? And
Well,
most of the people in prison now they weren't even born 1986. So they wouldn't have any grudge against him because whatever he did or whoever he killed has no impact on anybody who's now probably currently in.
it could be, but I just think that there shouldn't even have been a question. When that lawyer brought it right to the judge, there shouldn't be any law books opened and an investigation on whether this is cruel and unusual punishment at all. It should have been just slapped down the minute it walked through the court doors. There shouldn't be any thinking, any deciding, any decision, any pondering, any reflection. No, you guys killed people. No, we're not going to do that. Your case is dismissed. Boom, it's
So
over.
even if the drug makes them convulse or whatever, you're still, it doesn't matter, just it's time. When it's time, it's time.
When it's time, it's time. I don't care if they convulse, because if they convulse, then maybe they can reflect upon their life while they're convulsing, to reflect upon the life and the killing and the punishment that they dished out to their victims. Maybe that'll give them an idea of how their victim felt when the victim was being murdered, and the
All right.
stress that the victim felt.
So essentially,
Throw
what
it out.
this is Utah. Don't worry about what the drugs are. Just use whatever works.
Oh, get yourself a new set of drugs. If it's not working, if those drugs aren't working, get yourself a new set of drugs. There's all kind of stuff. Just lace them with fentanyl or some friggin' thing, even though it's illegal, you know.
Well, it's
But
not
I gotta
illegal.
be,
Fentanyl
straight
can be,
piped.
fentanyl is prescribed.
I've got to be straight piped on this. It's got to go right from my mind to my mouth. Throw it out. Get yourself a new set of drugs, if anything else is cruel and unusual, and slap a date on their head. Give them a last meal, march them in, and shoot them up.
All right. Sounds a little intense, but we'll find out what everybody else thinks. Let us know.